All right.
I chose not to.
We are streaming, I hope. Let's see if this is up and running.
Got it. So,
Yeah, we are. Okay, welcome to Streams of Spero, the Mercy of the Gods chapter. So this is the second chapter that I have now started for those that have been following Streams of Spero, because our group, I've done the big no-no. I've broken these guys up into many little pieces, and we're going to see what they can and cannot do. I am your humble Dungeon Master, Benito, and as you can see, there are only 2 players at this table. That's how fractured a lot of things are. I'll let them introduce themselves because some players have been away for a while, starting with you, sir, Glenn.
Hi, Glenn Myers. I play Zindred Cinevilia, a drow paladin, first paladin of the Raven Queen. First time that in this world drow have had a choice, and she's a big proponent of that in the new gods and the opportunities that they offer the people.
Yes. And you, sir?
Hi, I'm Josh Newton. I'm playing Lord Andriousis. Lord Andriousis lived a full life into elven adulthood of his previous land of Alanis, faded away into the sunset as true great heroes do, before he was roused from his deathly slumber by a request to the Raven Queen for additional arms. And he finds himself here traveling with who would be his mortal enemy in his former homeland, the Drow, because he believes in the success of the mission, and he is also haughty enough to believe that there is no chance in hell that Zindred's plan can work without him. So,
True. All right, Josh is fortunate enough to come back on the second chapter again, playing Andriousis. The other chapter, the War of the Garden, has been concluded, so we are moving into this, and if you want to find out the secrets of that, nothing is going to be spoiled here, because there is a time lapse. So there is events that have happened in the War of the Garden that have not yet transpired here for Mercy of the Gods. Recap, where are we? What has happened? Well, our Streams of Spero cast-in heroes captured and freed all of the stones of silk, her 7 sins, and they all chose to break the sin stone and thus releasing her into the realm of Spero, kind of starting her arrival as a pantheon god, her own gods of pantheons, into this old gods who have dominion here. Upon doing that, Hermes arrived, showing that they had started these events, and he was very concerned, only to find himself murdered by the hands of the Raven Queen. And of course, Zindred was not keen on this idea, not what she had kind of really planned on. So this is what led to this path. She's hoping to go to Zeus and see if there can be a parlay, a reasoning, a reckoning, some sort of anything that can kind of cause the realm not to suffer what these 2 pantheons seem to be headed straight towards. Andriousis has chosen to go with her. As he has stated before, he believes that the only way to get into an elven city is with an elf, especially an elf of his magnitude, even though he's not short-sighted enough to realize that he is not of this realm and not sure exactly how these elves, are civilized or their way of beliefs or thinking at all. So they come to the great city of St. Augustine. It is the city of elves with very little knowledge for, as I mentioned to the players, not many players have ever really been here. They have known about this place, but no one's really delved into the city. So this is a pretty good treat for those that are fans of Alanis, Spero, and want to know more. This is a great way to find out what the whole elven city has been about for a long time. So you guys find yourself transported. There is a road that you arrive on, and you see the great Dragonspine Mountains before you, and there is a large stair that leads up into the horizons of the mountains, which, in your knowledge of the map, would lead to St. Augustine. Zindred, you have heard of these stairs. It is lore, but it is something of the surface thing that is called the Stairs of 10,000 Steps.
So my first question, Benito, do I know these mountains to be in this realm called the Dragonspine Mountains?
No.
Okay. Do I recognize them as the Dragonspine Mountains of Alanis?
you would compare names, but they don't have the same semblance.
All right, so it's not like there's like an analog to Saint Augustine in Alanis that I can go ahead and piece together.
And to be
That's
honest,
where I was going with that. Yeah.
To be honest, I've gone to other realms, and Dragon Spines are a very popular mountain range name.
Sure. Yeah.
So it is just one of the commonality things, but
he'd probably just chuckle to himself that that whoever named these mountains was as original as whoever named the mountains in Alanis.
Got it. Yeah. I will note one thing before you two start venturing up. You do have Rydell with you. He is the only non-player character that is amongst your group. The other Obsidian Ravens have been tasked to save House Zindred from the other houses.
Right. Now, I have a question on that that's relating to the houses and just the overall what's going on there. Save House Cinevilia sounds a little strong. House Cinevilia is still doing fairly well, and lots of drow are switching or enjoying the new choice, but it is under threat. But I mean, was it about to fall?
Well, no. You got to remember, your house is the only one that has repented or cast down Loath. The other houses have not done that yet. That's not to say... I thought
we had started to draw other converts.
Well, no one has admitted it yet. I mean, there is a possibility that this could be... This is basically what the other game will, give those players... give that city an opportunity if it is also presented well. But for people that typically are looking for an advantageous situation to rise in ranks as one of their way they were all bred, it is definitely very similar to this is a tough conflict. But if House Cinevilia remains the first house and can repel most of the attacks that basically come against it, that will be a huge sway that probably most of the houses would turn. If they can crush your house, the likelihood of them swaying from Loath becomes almost none. So that's kind of where the belief structure is. But you have sent a Titan in terms of Jeremy's character to go there, plus the rest of your Obsidian Ravens who are quite formidable now that they've been traveling and venturing with you. They're a lot more stronger than the original Obsidian Ravens that have remained. So that's a pretty good task. And the party has done some other simple, subtle things that probably didn't seem right off the bat, but remember your uncle has been returned. He wasn't there originally before a lot of the stuff was happening as well, so it's strengthening. But if you feel like this is a difference at any point during this thing, as a dungeon master to you as a player, that is something that you could go back to.
Cool. Fair enough. As we're entering Elven territory, and before we ever get anywhere near St. Augustine, Zindred and Peace binds her weapons and orders Rydell to do the same.
He will nod and do that.
And in this world, or in the Drow community, is there a sign or an accepted sign or symbol or stance or phrasing to indicate that you are an emissary of peace? Kind of like the traditional white flag, but in Spero / the Drow.
Yeah, I mean, the traditional white flag would probably work as best you know. Give me a history check at advantage. You're an astute product of nobility.
19.
Nice. So this is a little history that will go between what you know. The High Elves and the Drow Dark Elves have not been in war that you can recall for hundreds and hundreds of years. The location of the High Elves being up here, you have heard through some of the Forstad slaves that you've captured, prisoners and stuff like that. They have mostly been dealing with northern tribes, North tribes, frost giants, and mostly undead, the High Elves, and have done very little with your society Drow. Your people have fought mostly with dwarves and gnomes of Forstad. So you guys have much more of that blood enemy. I just want to make sure that's a clarification compared to other common relations. It's not the same. They don't have that same stereotype with you guys, because it has been a long time. Like, you've never run into an elven contingent of any sort. You are learned, though, because you do send spies out in the world and get information. It is what the right of the first house is. St. Augustine is a military city, though. Those that rule by arms. So their children upon children are trained and made into the leadership of the realm. So you feel pretty comfortable. A lot of your military traditions and stuff like that will probably work in this city, because they are almost, in essence, a counterproduction of your people.
Right.
Not so much.
And at one point, long ago, there was common ancestry, and
So these guys haven't really left that. They might diverge in some aspects of how the houses are civilized in the city, but in senses, it's a military city, just like your people.
Okay.
So also, as we're sort of in progress, like I alluded to earlier, Andriousis would certainly kind of try to talk more formally, not formally, but more specifically with Zindred about what our plan can and should be. I know the elves, but I don't know the city. I know the goal is to make it to the top of the mountain and speak with Zeus and try to plead with him, but how do we get... I know step A, I know step C. What is step B? How do we get from there to there?
Zindred smiles at Andriousis and says, well, you have just described the dilemma of every battle leader ever to take the field. We know the start, and we know the desired end, but no matter how much we plan, we'll have no idea what's going to happen in the middle.
Sure.
I've never been to this city before. I have no way to plan for it or its customs. I'm open to any insight you may have.
I know none but for my people, and I know not if these people and my people think and act the same. I hope that I have some commonality, some ancestral spiritualism that I may be able to go ahead and tap into, that perhaps my stories and who I am and who I was is persuasive in some manner, but I have no idea if it will be or not.
Hopefully, your knowledge of the High Elf people will at least carry some commonality across the worlds. I think that's the best that we can hope for. I will say that in our world, the enmity between the Drow and the High Elves is no longer quite as strong as it seems to have been from yours. We do not associate, and it could go either way. But I guess if we make it more than 10 steps into the city, we'll know we're doing well.
Indeed, because understand the reticence from when we first met Zindred was not ever. I did not know you. My people had been at war with your people for millennia.
And I value the, should cocks her head to one side, almost friendship that we've cultivated since that rocky start.
Let's not push it.
That is why I said almost.
And he'll smile a little when he says that.
As you begin, you get a little ways up, and a unit of very well polished, they're plate mail armored elves quickly kind of like spot you and Redell more or less with Andriousis, and immediately kind of like pull weapons and begin to approach you.
Wait, we stand out?
You stand out, I know. What? Oh, now you put the cloaks on. All right, he goes, they go, halt! Who goes there?
And Andriousis shows his hands.
Zindred does as well, but low and out to the side, palms out. She does not raise her hands in surrender.
Right. Yeah, I'm not like.
Yeah. Why? Who are you? Why you've come? You are dark elves.
In Elven, I will speak with them. I will say, I am not of Dark Elf. I am of the High Fae, and my name is Andriousis. I come from across the realms of seas, and I come from across the seas of time to treat with you and your leaders.
The seas of time? What type of riddle statement is that?
Zindred's just smiling and waiting for Andriousis to finish with his pompery.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. I have seen the silvery tides, and I have returned.
What is your business with these two?
Zindred steps forward past him.
Okay.
And says, "My name is Zindred Sinavilia, of the first house of the Drow. I come on a mission of peace to meet with Zeus and try to avert this war of the gods that is coming."
Give me either a persuasion or intimidation check, please.
Persuasion. That's what it's all about today. $21.
Nice. The two guards look at each other and like you definitely get a sight. Like, did she just say exactly what I thought she just said? And the other one goes, "First house of the Drow city. You're here."
Indeed. I am also first paladin of the Raven Queen, a new goddess among the Drow.
A new goddess. This is way above my pay grade. Follow us and keep your weapons sheathed until we get to the gate.
She gestures towards the peace knot and says, "I have no intention of drawing my weapons while in your city."
Good. The elves basically lead you up the stairs. It is a long, long walk for everyone there. I need
1,000
everyone...
steps?
Yeah, 10,000 steps. I need everyone to make a constitution save, please.
Okay, everyone within 5 feet of me gets advantage on that saving throw.
Nice.
That's hot. I stay close to him.
And you get +5 and advantage.
And advantage.
Sweet.
And it's 10 feet for advantage. Apologies. 30 feet for +5.
Oof, oof.
So that is 29 for Andriousis.
Oh, nice. 20?
28.
28, wow. So you guys make your way up the stairs.
I'm sorry, 25.
25.
Somehow 20 plus 5 is 28. My bad.
It's all right. It's getting back into to math. You two make your way up. As you are moving up, the two lead guards, and they don't have a troop, but the two lead guards like really kind of look at each other and kind of expected to see you laboring, but you two have you have the Titan's mantle. You guys have no issues moving up the stairs.
Andriousis does not have the Titan's mantle.
Oh, you've taken.
I've done traced across the entire world. I've walked further than this. Sorry, Andrew.
True.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I just want to be very, very clear. Andriousis did not accept any gifts from Sylph.
Okay, because I still looked. I looked on your character sheet, and yours was still on there, so I have to.
I looked. It is on there, but I'm like any of the benefits that are on there aren't on anything.
So you're
that
taking
I use,
it off.
So
all right.
Yeah. I am not.
All right.
No.
It's
a long life.
That Stilk was involved, but considers herself a Titan of the Raven Queen.
Yes, you are basically that. All right, so basically you will get into, as you can see, into this city here. So you're there. There's definitely a lot of buildings on the outside as you get up to that clearing that's basically right here. It leads into a couple of twin towers that apparently leads into a courtyard going in there. They lead you to those gates there and then say, please, wait here. We're going to get our commander and find out what we're going to do with you guys.
Okay. Zindred makes no effort to... She sits in her saddle on top of her riding drake. correct posture, fully proud, fully the face of the first house of the Drow. She makes no effort to hide how much she's gazing around in wonder at the beauty of this elven city above the ground and the sunlight and the architecture, etc.
All right. To the north, you will spot those rows of windmills that seem to be just generating against the wind, and there's lights glowing behind the city walls, and that courtyard of the tower that goes in it is also with an eternal light that seems to be glowing as well. Elven people go about their business. There are some humans, dwarves, halflings, dragonborn mixed in the monks, but it is predominantly elves. The rest of the ancestries are very slim in number, but everyone seems to be happy. Everyone's going about their business. Everyone's kind of moving along. The buildings seem to be in no disrepair. They are well taken care of. The people look well fed. They look clean. They look, of good cloth. There is no, you don't see any parts of poverty amongst the city in any state of that sort. You do have some time right now with the three of you. Is anything you wish to discuss before they return, or does someone want to move off and do some exploring?
How familiar does this feel in terms of being an elven city? Like, does this feel like an elven city that I knew, or does it feel foreign?
That's a great choice. And looking back, this does not.
That thought, Zindred actually says to Andriousis, "So, how does this St. Augustine stack up to yours?"
This is magnificent in terms of a comparison for you. This is similar to Carathrog in terms of its strength of walls, capacity. The building structures are strong. There isn't a grace to it, though. Like, you remember the grace of the magic being woven out of marble, of the buildings and plants of nature, kind of used to decorate and present that. There are some large ones on the wall, but it is not as dominant as that you would have assumed. This definitely seems very stoic, preserved. Like, there's a lot of, it looks like the magic is made more to make things more formidable than beautiful that you're sort of used to, and the grace of where your people normally hid. And you've never seen, like, just in the front gate, you don't remember ever seeing that many elves in one place, unless the entire city of Misa was to be gathered together.
Right. So it sounds like it feels like a very human city, almost. Is that, like, so it doesn't feel like an elven city necessarily? It feels much more cosmopolitan.
Well, it has a lot of when you look at the way it's structured in your mind, you see human part, like you see some humanity aspects of that, but or human design, but it's the cleanliness, the maintenance, and the superstructure of things. It's sort of dwarvish in like, if you're trying to find things that were similar to your past, has that part, but there's still grace to it. There's still a lot more of the polish to things. So it is almost very futuristic for appearance. So it has that elegance, grace, but it doesn't have your old, like I said, more flowery, naturally designed to that part of things.
Okay.
A little more functionality, a little less flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so it's almost like an elven city that's been made more modern.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Then that is exactly the way that I would describe it to Zindred. That there are things about it that feel familiar and feel. He would first say that there are things about it that feel correct, and then he would stop himself and say, there are things about it that feel familiar, but it also seems as if time has shaped the city in ways that are both elven and not.
Progress doesn't stop for anyone. But is it good? An improvement? Or do you think that these elves are losing their way?
I can't tell that from here. That's an interesting question. I
One that often comes up about progress in general.
We haven't spoken much about who I was before. I was
some great hero of the realm.
Well, sure, but I was also very critical in many of my dealings with many of the non-elven races.
Zindred feigns shock.
Right. So, while here I am wearing a new mantle, so to speak, and on the other side of what was a long and fruitful life, perhaps there are some bits of it that are not quite so comfortable just yet. So I don't know.
Internal progress as well.
Let's not push ourselves.
Rydell now smiles at that. So basically, like within like an hour, a contingent of more elven soldiers arrive, about 40. They're led by a oppressive woman. She has very bright blue cape amongst her. Her armor is magical and adorned and plate. She has red hair and brilliant green eyes. Very attractive but very athletic and strong for a female elf. She strides out with the guards that you recognized before that got you in here, like quickly behind, and then she marches up to you. She goes, "Greetings, Lady Zindred of the First House of the Drow City. I am 8th Commander Jarsaladai Wildstorm. What is it that we may do for you?"
She mounted or standing?
She is standing. She did not come out with a mount.
Okay. Zindred dismounts, bows, and says, "Well met, 8th Commander
Wildstorm.
Wildstorm, my apologies. Wildstorm. We'll assume Zindred gets it right. She's excellent at these
I know you are.
of diplomacy.
Yeah.
I have come to ask the elves to help me reach Zeus, that I may treat with him and try to avert the coming war of the gods.
Excuse the father of God, Zeus himself?
Indeed.
Oh, that seems like a unbelievable request of a people. No gods are, until you are judged and brought before them, then you do not see the gods. And your people are aware of that, I thought.
And yet, here I stand. The world moves, whether we wish it to or not. New gods have come into this realm, and a war that will sweep up all of the peoples in our realm is coming. I don't know, honestly, I don't think there's anything that I could do to stop it. But if there is anything that I can do to minimize the bloodshed of my people and yours, I must.
I seem to be behind on my notes of things. You're saying new gods? The only thing we know of up here in St. Augustine that we've had issues with is the Lich Dark Sun and his rampaging in the northwestern hemisphere of this realm. We do know he is linked with Hades, and his ire to do harm to the gods and Zeus, but we have been warring with him for some time now.
To save time, Commander Wildstorm, do you or one of your followers have the ability to cast magics that will ensure that I speak only the truth?
Let me see if she
I would not ask you to allow me to cast.
I do not have that ability, but let me check if there's one within the city. We will take you to the Temple Apollo. The High Priest Zirene will be able to discern or put you under any truth spell if need be.
Very well.
However,
I will tell my tale, and I will spare you no detail.
I ask that weapons will be left in our care.
Zindred hesitates for a very long moment, then gestures to the sword that's peace-bound at her side, and says, I have already bound my weapon for peace, and I give you my solemn vow as heir to the first house of Cinevilia, that I will not draw weapons in your city. But I ask that you allow me to keep my weapon, only in that it was a gift to me from my God, and I'm loath to part with it.
Make another persuasion check at advantage.
35.
She easily is impressed by your etiquette. She goes, very well. In honor of your first house, and that since you are a noble lady, we will respect your honor. Your weapon will remain peacebound, and only be drawn should you come to harm. But that shall not happen in the city, not under my watch. Please, follow me to the Temple of Apollo.
Zindred does give up her longbow, her daggers, other weapons. That's the only one she keeps.
Okay.
In view of the commander, Andriousis removes the loop over his bow, the magical bow that he carries, and then sort of binds it so that it would take significant effort to go ahead and unbind it, to go ahead and restrain it, and everything like that, as a show of respect for the respect that they're showing us.
Okay, so you guys will go through that this twin towers into what apparently is this illuminated courtyard. You instantly see in the courtyard there are large hexes. Hexagrams that kind of make the pathway going up. But inside each of the hexagrams, you will each recognize glyph wards that are placed all within them. And they look to be activated should certain dangers arise. They're inactive at the moment, but this looks like a death zone should any opposing armies invade and have to go through that death trap.
And hopefully there's not any long-forgotten glyphs against Drow from hundreds of years ago that burned me to asunder?
That's the thing. This is very generic. It is a great question because I want to make sure that there is no you don't witness the prejudice that the two ancestries have faced. Again, it almost feels
She's
like
so
something.
far. She expected
this
more.
was something your people do. Like this is things that covers the house. Each of the houses, the nobility. It seems in a lot of essence familiar. And again, it's not generic to a certain. You're not seeing different types. Like they're presented for any type of danger, and you go to that. It does not take you guys long, but this glowing building seems to be like illuminating. It's like capturing the light of the sun and illuminating more so on its own. That is number 12 that you see on the map. It is a pretty large building, and you guys enter side with long tapestries of yellow going through. It's a big wide hall. There's like not much furniture as you go into this. Clean, pristine marble going across. Wildstorm pretty much leads up, gets a hold of an acolyte, and sends her off. She comes back about 10 minutes later, and there is a male elven priest. He seems older, gold hair, blue eyes, well adorned in the regalia of a ceremonial Apollo priest. He kind of speaks to Wildstorm. Zindred, your passive perception, if I recall right, is in its high 25, yeah, very high.
23.
It's still very high. You can still kind of overhear him going like, they're like, this is a noble lady of the first house. She is asking for a truth zone so she may speak on events of the world that appear to have the gods involved, another group of gods. He goes, what do you mean, another group of gods? Zay, I have no idea what she's talking about. She just showed up on the steps. I'm just telling you, she has some type of proclamation, and she wanted someone who can cause truth before she spoke about what we're trying to do, figure out what we're doing with her, before I present her to the rest of the houses. He looks and he goes, that is strange. No drow has ever really been up these steps in generations, and now we have one from the first house itself. That is ominous. Wildstorm, ominous. Well, now it can be part of your problem instead of just mine, so let's figure out what she wants. As they kind of now discussing them back, Andriousis, I don't know if your passive is high, so you have no idea what they're talking about.
It's also 23, so
oh,
yeah.
So you guys both hear this, so it's no problem.
Yeah.
All right, so they come back. He goes, greetings, Lady Zindred of House Zinnevilia. I am High Priest Z Renee of the Temple of Apollo. I am its High Priest here in St. Augustine. What is it that you have requested of me?
Well met, High Priest Renee. I hope to enlist the help of the High Elves in reaching and obtaining an audience with Zeus himself, to try to avoid bloodshed across the world with the coming War of the Gods. I am aware that your people know nothing of this so far, it would seem, so I have asked that they bring me to someone who could cast a spell that would ensure I speak only the truth, that I may tell you my story, and you may know it to be true.
If you wish to speak with the High Priest of the Temple of Zeus, I know of the High Priest there. That could be done.
This is where Commander Wildstorm brought me when I requested someone who could ensure that I speak only the truth.
Well, I can do that.
If you would prefer that we meet with the Priest of Zeus, we may. Or you could summon them here, and they may hear as well.
Well, we definitely need to understand exactly what you have need of. I will cast the spell, and you can tell the tale, and I will see what the city can do for you. Although, I must say, we have not dealt with your people in a long, long time.
Understood. I am honored to have been allowed into your city and to see the wonders of St. Augustine as the first of my people, actually perhaps the only of my people currently living to have ever done so.
That is why, Your Eminence, I have asked Lady Zindred if I may travel with her. Some familiarity, perhaps, a token that our peoples can work together in this.
I see. And what house do you come
from? A high
from?
elf who also knows the truth.
I have seen it. It's true.
What house do you come from?
I am not of the Drow. I come from a land far from here.
No, we have houses as well. As you can see,
correct.
Commander Wildstorm is of House Wildstorm.
Surely. I was lord of my own house in my world.
Your world?
I have, as I told the guards at the front gate, Your Eminence, I have seen the Silvery Isles, and I have returned from them. But I have returned to a different time and place.
Again, he's definitely taken aback by your story. He again looks at the commander.
I'm sure I'm speaking like old language, like old religious language to him.
Right.
He's like, nobody has practiced that religion ever. Like,
so
what the hell are you talking about?
He does an enchantment and he casts a spell. You feel it wash over you, and I'm taking you are willingly allowing the zone of truth to affect all of you.
Yeah. Of course.
In good faith, Zindred will allow the spell. Yes.
Okay. He goes, I see you are willing, and you feel the effects of it asking of you to show your will, and you have. Apollo now stands and put you in his light. You may speak freely, and we all here know that you speak with your conscience, truth in your mind as well as your heart. You may begin your tale and tell us your desires of what you're asking of the people of St. Augustine.
Zindred smiles and says, "Thank you very much, and I appreciate you hearing me. Do you by chance have somewhere where we can sit comfortably? This could take some time."
He looks and goes, "Of course." The acolytes kind of help you guys up, and then you are taken to a large balcony. There's some very nice plush white cushy chairs, like more of a couches, that there with some planters like that. They look out into the east where the sun would rise, and he goes, "Here, please." He allows you all to take seats, and then goes, "We have all the time you need."
Very well. And Zindred actually stands and faces everyone, and then tells them the tale, starting with the oppression of the Drow under Loth and her life before the Raven Queen, then the freedom she found in the gray light of her new goddess, what she learned about that, and the fact that her new goddess was able to touch this world, the party arriving in the Drow city, her joining the quest, Hades' plot, the Send Stones. She doesn't hold anything back.
Okay, cool.
Andriousis being summoned back from the dead, going to the underworld to try to stop Hades, facing all of the things that he threw at us, each stone as we captured it, the final meeting where we destroyed the stones to stop Hades from seizing the power of this entire pantheon to take over the world. Hermes' arrival. She's honest about the Raven Queen's killing of Hermes and her request, Zindred's request.
So you basically explained that the 7 stones were created by Hades to bring Silk in.
Yep.
That each of you took the stones, had to wear them, then you were asked to break them to free her, and you guys all did that as well. You explained that. Okay, and then, of course, your goddess betraying Hermes.
Yep.
He
and
goes...
the fact that they don't think that the gods of this new pantheon do not think that the gods of this realm will make room for them, that a war is inevitable. I am here in hopes of proving them wrong and seek audience with Zeus.
Andriousis, what do you add?
I add the bits of the story that I can corroborate, or more attest to the things that I saw basically since I had returned. And I ask the priest of Apollo if he would like to know of my life before I crossed to the Silver Isles themselves. I would be happy to tell that story, but I'm not sure what it means here. But it may give some context into the powers that Hades was treating with.
So you're brought here by this Raven Queen to serve.
I am actually not totally sure who it was that brought me here. I know that I had taken the long walk, and then I was here. I'm not totally sure which power, if I'm being totally honest. I'm not sure which power it was that brought me here. They tell me it was the Raven Queen, but...
Right. The story is long. The two, Commander Jocelyn, and the High Priest, Zen, they kind of each look at each other as you're telling the tale, going about it, and they're like, Then pretty much the High Priest goes, "Lady Zindred, we can feel some of that one effect. Our High Priest of Hermes has felt his power lost. We were unsure exactly the events that would happen to this. It was part of our study. This would explain those events."
I can tell you that I grieve for Hermes' followers and all the people who lost their god. The loss of a deity is a unthinkable thing. I did, however, get both the Raven Queen and Silk to agree that should Zeus agree to a peace between the powers of the two combined pantheons, they may return Hermes to life.
Now, is these two goddesses from your world? Is that what you're alluding at?
Silk is from my world, and the Silk that I knew of from my world seems far different than the Silk that I have seen so far.
Can you clarify the difference that you know and what you are seeing?
So Andriousis begins to tell the tale of Silk, the Dark Lady of Alanis, and the dread grasp that she held on its people. And after he tells that story, the generations and generations and generations of stories that story lives through, he says that when he first returned and saw her, there was no room in my heart to trust her. But the Dark Lady, as I knew her, would never have made even that arrangement, and he points at Zindred, to return some status quo once she was returned to power. I think that it is worth interrogating Silk and finding her intentions.
Perhaps treating with, as it would be a better choice of words, Andriousis?
Perhaps. But I think that this Raven Queen, as I have seen her, is perhaps the counterbalance that can keep the Silk that I knew from becoming the Silk that is here. I think that they are connected, and they are that this Raven Queen and the honor that she exhibits.
Both of you give me an insight check, please.
That's a 14 for me.
21.
Zindred. When Andriousis was telling the tale, and this might be because he was more into telling the tale, when he kind of mentions the Dread Realm, the High Priest takes like a hesitant, like he knows of the Dread Realm, and he's a little bit more that kind of effective negativity in some aspect.
Okay.
He kind of rocks back. The commander seems like you guys have just blown her over. She doesn't even know exactly what's going on right now.
She has no frame of reference.
Yeah, she's just like, whatever, this seems crazy. But
Mind blown.
High Priest Z is definitely like, So the act of your goddesses have definitely triggered a war. But we do not know where our old gods are because they're not aware of their presence at the moment, I imagine. Unless Haiti does. But of course his agenda seems to be singular in his own cause of the ruin that he is making here. I need to treat with the other commanders. We will be able to ascertain what we can allow you to investigate and pursue within the walls of St. Augustine.
Before you go to treat with your commanders, I would ask you to remember that neither Silk nor the Raven Queen started this war. Hades did. Hades started this war by pulling them into this realm and by attempting to bind their power and make them slaves. Once we freed them, they reacted as any slaves would against the masters who oppressed them and fought back.
Awesome statement. Roll a persuasion advantage.
Well, that's one die because it didn't roll both. That's a 21. Hang on. And the second, 31. 31.
As you speak, you're just a silver tongue. He just looks at you. He goes, like, now you've hit an interesting reflection part on a perspective that he definitely was not looking at. He goes, and he's nodding like involuntarily. I will let the other commanders know. Wildstorm, you will house the lady at your place, so she is comfortable and protected. He goes, of course, High Priest. And he goes, this should only take a couple of days to give us time. We will make sure that you are well accommodated.
Thank you very much. I look forward to enjoying the hospitality of the elves.
All right.
Perhaps we could arrange for someone to, under supervision of course, show me the sights of your fair city.
The commander, Dressali, goes, of course. So please follow me. You will go to. So you'll end up going down to this southern building here, this round one. Now, interesting as you are going through the city, as you're seeing the same very well structured that you saw in the outside to the inside. The structure is very well contained. It seems to be a very large circular home, like a sort of a mansion in frame, with about 7 floors to it. As you're kind of looking, you see other ones. You see the other 3 because they're large structures within the city, Zindred, and that instantly gets you to reflect back to your home. Like, this is a lot of, again, similarities that the houses do. The predominant houses are placed within the city, very grand structures that hold everything else, while the rest of the city is closet. It seems like you two just kind of split, but not a whole lot has kind of changed from the very ancient beginnings of your people.
Gotcha. Lots of parallels between the two societies still.
As you go in, Jolese will go. She will greet you to another woman. She seems to be of middle age for high elves. She's got gold hair, blue eyes, very attractive again. And Commander Dressali goes, "This is my wife, Marissa. Marissa will see to your needs throughout the house, and that you are taken care of."
Lovely to meet you, Marissa, Zindred says, taking her hand and bowing over it. Thank you so much for welcoming us into your home. We appreciate all hospitality that you extend to us. While unlikely, I realize, should you ever find yourselves in the city of the Drow, please call upon House Cinevilia, and we will extend the same honor.
I will get you all taken care of. You had a long road. Let's get you clean. I must ask, though, are the spider silks that have been rumored long, long ago as a legacy some of the finest cloth you could possibly wear?
Zindred smiles, digs around in one of her, pouches or bags and pulls out a handkerchief made of the material and hands it to her and says, "A gift."
And she is blown away and marveled by me. Oh, wow. Thank you. Well, appreciate this much. And you guys are allowed to clean up, get refreshed. There's some small snacks given to you before apparently a dinner course, but you two are free to kind of reconnect and mingle again and talk about maybe how events kind of played out, if you have a direction as things are still... You guys have a 2-day wait, but I'll give you guys an early encounter with each other to decide what you want to discuss.
Well, Zindred's gone for a while. And gets quite clean and refreshed and enjoys her bath. And
yeah, I was gonna say this is probably the first time that Andriousis has taken a nice long bath in a really long time, since he was dead for a long time. So he's probably trying to he's probably on some level he's aware of the fact that he was dead for a while, and so he's on some level trying to wash the death from him.
Wash away the dirt of the grave.
Nice.
Right. He knows that when he first came back, he had difficulty kind of treating with his own god. Some of his paladin abilities did not manifest immediately, and so he is trying to play the whole purification of body angle to go ahead and allow that connection to be more forthright. He's making it almost he's almost ritualizing it.
Similar, but more for ritualizing the luxury. Zindred has not had a good and proper bath since we were being put up in the fighting pits in Fangsport, and I'm sure that the baths in the elven city are blowing that away.
Oh yes, this is a high-functioning noble house in that regard. Magical stuff, applying all the effects that you need: running water, heat, warmth. You can change attire if you wish, or you can just get it cleaned. You guys definitely take a long time, but you guys are refreshed. There is a maid that is taking care of you, a servant. She sees to a lot of your changing of clothes, towels, things like that. As the three of you have adjacent rooms that are apparently in a guest wing on the floor. Apparently the second floor of the house is where you guys are staying.
When Zindred reappears, she is actually wearing, she's not in a long flowing flowery dress or anything, but it is an appropriately appointed tunic and trousers style, as opposed to her armor, which honestly among her companions is almost never seen, because on the road, she just gets clean, puts it back on.
Yep.
For the most part. But she does still carry the Raven Queen sword belted to her side.
Okay.
Peace nodded.
All right. Well, the two of you see each other in your best. Is there anything you wish to catch up on? Like I said, you assuming that you're gonna get a tour of the city or anything like that, but.
Well, Zindred's mostly so far this has gone far better than I expected.
Yeah, I hope that I did not make things uncomfortable when I was asked about Silk and who she was in my realm. I tried my best to be honest with what I have seen, despite my distrust, but it's very difficult to speak about her in positive terms.
Understood, and I wouldn't expect anything different. Honestly, I'm not certain how I feel about Silk. However, I can say that with all of the gods of your world coming into this one, we speak of Silk and the Raven Queen most commonly, but there are far more than that, and just as this pantheon has both good gods and evil, your world, I'm sure, had to have its Hades too.
Oh, I'm sure.
And honestly, the world I don't think can live without that balance.
That was the point that I tried to make about the counterpoint that Silk and the Raven Queen seem to play, that the check and the balance would help everything stay in alignment. It is as if there are two nations at war, and they are fighting over the same territory in a third nation, and they take piece by piece so that neither nation ever gets bigger than the other, and so no nation ever gets advantage. I wonder if letting Silk take the seat that she will most likely take by force anyway, while also letting the Raven Queen ascend, helps keep that balance.
Indeed. And perhaps, if a peace can be struck and both pantheons continue to exist side by side, they will help keep each other in check.
I am not sure that both pantheons can live side by side. I'm not sure that that arrangement works for either side. Perhaps I am wrong, but there can be but one Zeus, right?
Indeed, and there can be but one Raven Queen. However, that does not mean that some powers of gods don't already overlap, even amongst the existing pantheons.
Sure.
I hear your words, Andriousis, and I honestly worry that this is a fool's errand. But if hoping for peace, trying for peace, feeling that an effort must at least be made, makes me a fool, then so be it.
You know, I do not make this statement lightly. But separating the personal stake that you have in the Raven Queen's ascendancy, is peace actually the best outcome here? Or do we really feel that there is some way that both pantheons can coexist? I just don't know.
If there's not, all the peoples of this world will be swept up in a conflict, and the loss of life will be immense. And the ones who will suffer will not be the gods, well, apart from the ones that lose. It will be the drow, the high elves, the humans, the dwarves, the gnomes.
I wonder if maybe the easiest path is not the one of peace, but the one of elevation and escalation. Let the gods truly fight amongst themselves and see if we can keep the blood from rolling downhill. Just an idea.
And who is dreaming with a fool's hope now that the gods would settle their differences on their own and not involve their favorite playthings, or at least the gods of this world?
Yeah, I mean, I understand your point, because the gods of this world are far more fickle and interventionalist than the gods of mine. The gods of Alanis did not do this. They did not sweep up mass groups of soldiers and throw them at, like, a snowball at other groups of soldiers for other gods. That was not... You know, he kind of cocks his head a little bit. He's like, you know, perhaps they were just more subtle about it. Maybe there is more parallelism there than I'm thinking. Because I think about how often those who wore the mantle of our god of justice, Tyr, or our god of war, and how often those individuals who wore those mantles were at the forefront defending against armies of darkness.
Andriousis,
and how
roll me a history check since you're reminiscing right now.
I like it.
I'll give you advantage.
Rock on.
Because you're a conversation.
You lived it.
Yeah, you lived, but you're talking of it strongly right now.
Yeah. 21.
Okay, 21. And this might be something that because you're in a different mind now. As you're talking, you're like, you know, the way the gods were kind of going, and you're like, our god of war, those that fought in his name was Ares.
Ooh.
Wait a minute. And then you think the goddess of love was Aphrodite. But two names that you kind of now realize as you were moving towards this old pantheon are two names that are part of this old pantheon. Aphrodite and Ares are two names that are part of your pantheon.
Yeah, so he's kind of like going down this road of like, you know, maybe those who picked up the mantle, you know, like the gods, like, of Ares, our god of war. And it's at, yeah, and when he sees your head cock, he's like, perhaps this crossover isn't new.
Do we share any other common gods? gods or god names, and Zindred goes through the list.
When you get to Aphrodite, he says, yes, she was our goddess of love.
Strange. I wonder if these were aspects of the same beings.
Unlike the Dragonspine Mountains, I think that their names are unique enough to be individual. Because we too had a Dragonspine Mountain range, but they are not these mountains.
I wonder if with the crossover that means that currently there are two versions of Ares, or if there is simply Ares and Aphrodite. Perhaps, if so, they could be a bridge between the two pantheons.
I will
Perhaps
allow...
we should be speaking with them.
Andriousis, I will allow you again to roll a history.
I like it.
And Zindred, you please roll... I'm going to say an insight. And both of you get to roll this at advantage.
I like it. I like it. That's a 26.
Nice.
19.
Nice. Okay. Basically, you two kind of like go, all right, other similarities. Well, what was Ares? What did he look like? What was his portfolio? A lot of the stuff that you start going down a list. You will find... You feel that you're at least 85% in description, in faith, in belief, in their ethos of what they do is very similar to what is in Spero, is in the same as in Alanis.
Huh. So we're really talking about the same objective individual here. We're talking about the actual same entity.
What is
already connecting our worlds?
Yeah, what is your... Are either one of you proficient? I think Zindred is. Zindred, you're proficient in religion? Is Andriousis?
No, I'm a paladin, but I'm not proficient in religion. No.
I am.
You are. What is your bonus?
Plus 12.
Plus 12. Jesus, Zindred. Your upbringing in the House of Nobility, and you feel like when this kind of got discussed, when your grandmother came out and said, we're doing this new goddess, and a lot of you, and you remember your aunts going, how is this possible? What are you talking about? We're talking about a goddess who has no power, doesn't exist. How are we going to oppose Loth if we were doing this? This was a very long conversation. You were very young and not much a part of it, but because of your passive perception is so high, there's a lot of conversation with your aunts and your grandmother. They were demanding why they should risk their position and their position with Loth, the faith within the house of the City of Eternal Night, to take on this mantle. It was the way your grandmother explained to them that Loth is giving us the power and the position, but she's always planning for the others to take it all away. If we follow a goddess that can always believe in us, always give us the faith and the protection that we need, then this position that we are in will remain longer if we stayed with Loth. As they discussed, well, how is the power structure? Because these are the old gods, and the Spider Queen is unknown to the old gods. By the way, she mentions this, that the Spider Queen is brought here and was made whole because of our people. And that is how she was manifesting into the realm. But she has ties to many different realms because she explains realms as their source of power that can be drawn out to other places, especially to the mortal realms, where they can now push their power into mortal beings to have their faith and become a disciple. So somehow or another, this kind of like puts the projection that somehow Ares and Aphrodite must have been, while on Olympus, projecting some power into what Andriousis is explaining, into the dread realm of Silk, and manifesting their beings and their faith into that realm. So somehow Silk has a connection web to them, if there is indeed a pantheon that the two of them, Silk and the Raven Queen, have told you to. But that would be the way that could exist and be the same being, with the way gods are from the way you know the faiths and beliefs are made and powers are given to the mortals.
So perhaps there's more connection between our realms than we thought. Perhaps Hades was able to exploit that connection between Ares and Aphrodite in order to start this process in the first place, since he has no counterpart in the other realm. How he accomplished it does not really serve us at this point beyond curiosity and intrigue, but the connection that Aphrodite and Ares may share or know of this other pantheon and already be associated with it could work to our advantage.
So, Ben, if I try to extend myself to connect with my god, the elven god from Alanis, right?
Mm-hmm. Danu.
Yep. Do I feel like they answer, or do I feel like there's somebody else on the line?
Give me a wisdom roll.
Like a wisdom saving throw, or?
Nope, just a wisdom bonus.
Okay.
You're not saving versus anything, you're pushing your will through something.
It's a 6.
Okay. Well, it's not like a nothing. You're pushing, but like you feel like there's definitely like maybe only a whisper where that thread could possibly like maybe get to. Like you're not cut off, but for you it's not a presence that is strong.
Right.
You have been on Alanis for a long time. You've had to deal with a lot of things that were problems, especially the way the Dread Realm would always treat especially the elven gods, that it could be a lot of the stuff cut off. So it's very similar to that. It's something like you feel that the barrier is too long or too thick, and there isn't a strong source for you. Because you kind of remember when you were alone, you felt aspects that could be similar to this, but not as distant that you're feeling. But it was always weaker. When you were back in Misa with your people, and Danu was prevalent amongst your people being worshipped and all around, that was a much more opening. The warmth and the feeling of Danu and your prayers and stuff felt more foresightful. You connected and all that stuff like that. So you're kind of feeling that it could have a connection point.
I'll share that information to the best that I can translate it to Zindred and say that if I really exert myself, I can still feel Danu's gaze. But so that tells me that the power can transfer from here to there, and presumably from there to here. But it requires more will than I can muster at this moment.
This will trigger a memory again with you, Zindred, that again your aunts and your grandmother had, your mother. That is the basis of the resistance to the other houses. Your grandmother believes by resisting the other houses and then having many of them lose Loth, and any one of those other high priestesses changes to Silk, the Raven Queen, Tiamat, and I cannot remember the fourth one, but any of them follow suit to that, then your power, your grandmother would again be the high priestess, like she was very similar to with Loth. She's considerably arcane gifted as it is, but she feels like it would restore much of the same thing that she's at with Loth. Loth right now is at her height, but if we can make those foundations true, then the power of your goddesses would be on the same par level, if not stronger, down the road. So the more faith and followers, the stronger the god's presence are in realms.
Right. That Zindred already kind of understood, and that's part of why she's been pushing for belief and faith, and was actually talking about creating a temple to the Raven Queen in Greenwood.
Yes.
She would then visit later to see her friends and whatnot. With all of this new information, Zindred lowers her hand to the hilt of her sword and casts her thoughts through the sending that the sword allows towards the Raven Queen herself, which, she's God. She may or may not answer. But she throws out these revelations about the two gods that shared the realms and knowing about the need for belief, etc., and asks what was the fate of Aphrodite and Ares as the pantheons merged. Are they simply still themselves, or are there two versions of them that, like the Skeksis and the mystics of Dark Crystal, have to get close enough together to merge into one being?
Give me another insight check, Zindred.
There's a throwback for you.
Yes, nice.
Right.
One more insight check, Zindred.
Indeed. Uh, 24.
Nice. Within your feeling with the sword, you can kind of just get a lot of the mood of your goddess. She's delighted. There's a humor to your question, but she says to you, "Oh, yes, they are one, and they are now wolves in sheep's clothing."
I see. Is that to say that they are on our, she says that with mental air quotes, side?
Because of your
pantheon?
Because of your insight, she doesn't quite respond, but you feel that she feels a kinship, like they are definitely some sort of ally.
Zindred says, "Thank you, Mother. Your wisdom and counsel is a blessing as always."
As you feel your wings separate from the connection, sort of like your vision of you're sending to the Raven Queen, though, as you're sort of returning on those wings, she goes, "But remember, they are on their own. They're of their own mind with the events that are to transpire."
Understood.
Okay. You guys have any more reflection?
Beyond small talk and perhaps spending some time with the lady of the house to make sure she feels that her guests are honored by not only the fact they're allowed to stay there, but her company. What time of day is it? Are we evening at this point? What time do we get here?
I'll say
Is
about.
there time that at this point I'd be like,
Yeah, oh
"Where's
god.
that escort? Let's go look at the city," or is it almost bedtime?
It's pretty late because the time took to get to the stairs. The time you got to meet the high priest. Then you guys told two long-winded stories that took a lot to absorb. Then you came back, took very long times to get yourselves cleaned and taken care of, and again having another short conversation. I mean, it's not like super late. Zindred, of course, could go for quite some time, but it seems like the city is definitely settling. They seem to be definitely within the mood of the sun. As it sets, the town seems to quiet. It is illuminated. There's definitely a lot of magical lights of that going about, but the people seem to be like wanting to be at their calm. Commander Jarsoletti and her wife Marissa are definitely fine hosts. They revel with a lot of your stories. I mean, she is just fascinated by your tales, and in turn, they kind of tell you that many of the armies are sent out northwest to fight against the undead horde. So they have been kind of keeping Fair pretty well protected, even though Fair does not do much with allying with them or helping them out or acting as any type of helpful component. There'll be some men that do, but most of the time Fair wishes to stand on its own. They've had frost giant problems But there have definitely been incidents with issues with werewolf units, but that has started to quiet down a bit more. And frost giants have been a huge problem for the armies, is what she tells you. So you get an idea where St. Augustine's forces have been doing a lot of work. You will know that she kind of like portrays that each of the houses have a standing army, like they're in command of, like, basically about 300 to 500 elven individuals mostly on each of the city. And you will know that there are 12 houses that rule the city. Commander Jessaleti will let you know there are 4 houses on each of the 3 levels. So there's the surface level, the first level, and the second level. The second level is where the temple of Zeus resides, for you to know.
Sorry, Ben, I need to step away for just 1 second. I'll be right back.
No worries. And you will get the sense, Zindred, that you just can't help, because of the way you're approaching a lot of this stuff, to smile. The elves of St. Augustine are militant. They are structured. They follow a very hierarchy of rank, with the first house having the superiority. And it all sounds so similar to what you're doing. The only difference is it's more like their positions kind of fluctuate a little bit more depending on the success of the army. So the more the armies are engaged in outside warfare, not within though. So where your houses kind of like are looking to kind of peck each other by their own exploits, it is more by fame and glory that these houses move about within the city ranks in their structure. So if they lose a couple of armies in a battle with this dark sun, it can really diminish a house's ranking. But there's not many other houses that have the opportunity to be this. These 12 houses have been there for generations and are maintaining the status quo of the city's wealth and status.
Zindred continues to be comforted by the similarities between the two societies and fascinated by the differences. And honestly is a little bit envious that their struggles for power and position are focused on external forces instead of infighting in each other. That she definitely sees as the biggest upgrade that the High Elves have over the Drow at the moment. And she tells stories of her own society too, and tries not to go into the stuff that's too dark about it's a nice family dinner and they're nice people. She doesn't need to go into all of the horrors of Drow society under Loth before change began to happen.
Okay.
And for humor's sake, she'll even slightly embarrass herself with a tongue-in-cheek telling of the meeting of Mr. Fluffykins, the vile betrayer, the vile deceiver.
Wow. Okay, well, as you're delighting in all this, they do have an adopted daughter named Wildy who loves your story, and that seems to really win over the two parents with that, because she enjoys that story so much. Just hilarious to hear something of that state. So that works out really well. The next couple days, we'll kind of go over some of the aspects here of the city. And let me just check some things here. The city is large, so it's going to be a lot of little things here that will be sort of pointed out, but some of the things will not be a big deal from what really you see. In the set, I'm going to use this arrow here, so people watching at home will try to do the same here. Oh, kind of move that. Alright, so this thing in the center is a huge, beautiful fountain. This is basically the Great Fountain of St. Augustine. It's a huge constructed wonder for its for what it does. Just spitting water all through that pond, going through there.
Zindred oohs and ahs appropriately.
Below here is the Temple of Athena, and below that is a huge training grounds for some of the armies that you basically will see around here. And the area right there where you guys are going in there, it seems to be a lot of beautiful towers, purple, in the shape of roses is kind of the outer designs. And then she tells you that is the Academy of the Weave, where the mages reside.
Interesting.
The other big notational area will be that place up there where my arrow is. It is known as the Temple of Wings. This is Artemis's temple. It is important because that is where their griffin cavalry is placed. All right. On day 2,
Zindred is exceptionally interested and impressed at the griffin cavalry and their taming of the flying mounts. And if given the opportunity, she would spend some time, with a caretaker of the griffins and learn about them and whatnot.
Okay.
Not that you have to go into a lot of detail or anything. I'm simply stating what Zindred would be interested in.
Yeah, totally. I had something over there. All right.
Andriousis does not fly.
He might if Zindred tossed him.
All right, let's get this one here. All right, so let me put this a little bit more down here, I guess. All right, right here in the arrow up here, there is a huge staircase where people are going up and down, and you end up being led by the commander. Jealousy down below. That leads to this area right here as you basically come down and go through the gates here. Here you see like somehow there are just these very strange plants that seem to be all the farms that are produced below. So if there's another level below, their entire framework of farming is highly well protected. Again,
now, when we say the level below, and I see the rocks around the map, is this on
this is underground,
in a craggy, peaky area of mountain surface, or is this actually subterranean?
Subterranean. So this is a layer underneath the top of the city, but within there.
Okay. Andriousis, you would notice that Zindred visibly relaxes just a little bit
as Andriousis grows slightly more tense going below ground. Yeah.
Yeah, but the chamber is hugely vast. Like, there is a huge amount of space to the top to kind of accommodate these very large buildings. Like, they're not structured into the surface. They actually have air above many of this. So these big round buildings here, again, seem to be very familiar. They're the same designs that you saw on the top surface. They are apparently more of these noble houses of the city.
This truly feels like home. It could almost be the city of night.
Yeah, she points to this large building over here, and she tells you that is the mighty library of St. Augustine. Much of our knowledge and history can be found there. That temple nearby is going through some of that issue we've told. That is the Temple of Hermes, where the High Priest Bremet is having Windheart has been cut off from his divine powers. So we are trying to do what we can to help him.
Sorry, Windheart, isn't that the same family that is putting us up?
No, Wildstorm.
Okay, Wildstorm. Sorry.
She points at, of course we know how he is, but this is the way of the old gods. That is the Temple of Hades. That is done there, but it is not of the same malice. It is who of our priests have taken the name and mantle to honor and take care of our dead. That is the Temple of Hephaestus. Let you go about that. More training grounds are below here. And I mean, there are shops and all this stuff that are basically going around that you see. And in the center area, these are other smaller noble houses that don't really have armies that they are responsible for or have of their own. She tells you there are the 3 farms: Heartsong, Bluesight, and Earthleaf. Those are going there, and Artemis's Waterfall is right at that point. There is another gate that goes below there that will lead down to the lower layer of the Dragon Spine, and we will go there when we go to the Temple of Zeus.
Very well.
This is pretty much an all-day affair for each of those 2 days there. Is there anything in these 2 days that you wish to angle for your characters?
Zindred would periodically, you mentioned shops, and I'm sure we passed plenty of them, keep her eye out for things that are representative of this elven culture, i.e. highlighting the difference of the Sun Elves and the fact that I was in a High Elf city, that she thinks would be appropriate for various family members and friends, etc., and picks up souvenirs and curios.
Okay.
At the end of the second day, before going onward, knowing that her fate is uncertain, she does, however, make sure that Rydell knows that her hope, her ask, is going to be that should they deem her life forfeit, they allow him to return her body to the Drow people, and so she gives him instructions on which gifts go to whom, just in case.
Wow. Okay, cool. I like it.
Interesting.
All right. As you guys go through this again, your customs, the Wildstorm family is definitely really enjoying having hosting you, Zindred. Your elegance, your etiquette, kind of like portraying the world and everything you have. It really feels like you're putting 2 worlds together and really influencing this house to your people and their plight. And it is an interesting development between the 2. Like, you really feel that these 2 parents, these women, are really feeling out everything you're trying to accomplish. You know, they're definitely here rooting for you in a lot of regards.
On that evening, I would, while we're sitting around after dinner around the fire, Andriousis would ask if he could tell a tale of his home realm.
Oh, yes.
So I will preface by saying that some of the place names and the names of the entities, the gods that I knew then, may sound foreign and strange, but that I will attempt to retell the story as accurately as it was told to me. And he'll sit back for a second, and he will launch into the story of a woman named Kiri, who, like many young people, was rebellious against the things that her parents had and her family had, and that it was a tremendous foretelling of fortunes for my world when she met the one that would become her betrothed, and when the Greystoke line was forged, when Kiri and Razan first were married. And he would go on to tell the lineage as he knows it, of how Razan and his children and his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren and his great-great-grandchildren forged so many of the cities and the campaigns for freedom for the people that were known as children's stories. They were known by everybody in my land because of how influential that they were, but that at its core it began with a simple story of elf and man and what they thought they could go ahead and make from the world.
Give me a performance check with advantage.
Well, performance is not his strong suit, but that's... He's not particularly charismatic.
We know.
But that's a 12.
12.
So.
Still solid. The tale rings strong with amongst all of you as you're dining on the red wine. It definitely seems to impact the two wild storms as they understand the solemns going. Your people, Andriousis, they were so seen as nobilic and heroic, but were you... It sounds like as if you were oppressed by this place that you had to call home.
He'll get a little sad when she says that. Milady, I'm not sure that I can adequately tell the story about how it feels when it feels as if the very dirt beneath your feet is against you. We tried as hard as we could to bring joy and hope and peace. But I, with no exaggeration and with no hyperbole, tell you that the land of Alanis was not always, in every pocket and in every way, a land of joy. It was exactly the opposite. It was a land of dark forces. It was a land of supernatural interference in a scope that is impossible to recollect. There was, and his face will get a little kind of like grave and ashen as he tells the story of Necropolis and the city that was built on the bones of its dead and was littered with such evil that it itself came to life on some level and could spawn undead like you spawn children. It was... I remember campaigning there, and it was a city that it felt like everything was a cold rain that sucked the energy from your marrow with every step as you walked closer. There were moments of tremendous beauty, and there were moments of potential. But truly the biggest tragedy of Alanis was that whenever hope would take root, there was always betrayal to follow it. There was always tragedy to behind it. There was a frustration in the people that was palpable in every city, in every village. And there were many of us that did what we could to fix it, but that we often could not agree in how to resolve it. And so those disagreements themselves became the most formidable challenge to rectifying any evil. And he'll look over at Zindred and say, Zindred, this is why I stand with you, is because I was one of those voices that for a very long time inadvertently fought against the very thing that I was striving for. Perhaps with me that can change.
As you looked towards Zindred to address her directly, you see her wiping a tear from the corner of her eye, and she looks at you and for the first time says, my friend, could you but hear from my perspective, you describe your world as being nearly identical to mine before the Raven Queen, the life of the Drow. Perhaps this is why I feel such kinship to you, our shared suffering. And she puts a hand on your shoulder. And I hope, not just for my people, but for the rest of the people of this world, to keep anyone from being locked into those dark choices and impossible situations.
Jasleti is moved. She goes, Your stories are incredible. Just to know them, we will pass them on into the archives of the library so many can understand and learn what you two have showcased in your soul to make a better world for all of us. I'm just a bit curious, though, Andriousis. You say you are from a world that you made the long walk. I remember you speaking. Are you the only? There were other names that also were given the same, I guess, rebirth as you?
There were, Zindred, I believe, 7 of us.
Just of those raised by the Raven Queen to fight with us. Hades had already raised many to carry the stones. Again, 7.
I think I've been hearing tales, so there were tales of a group getting some type of stones of Hades and having to look for some champions, but we only know this because they had some type of link to the Dark Sun. Were there no other elves that were with you, Andriousis?
No, my cousin, the great blade singer for Quillen, was with us.
Oh, where is he?
He is off. I think he's actually gone to learn of the Dark Sun, if I remember correctly, Zindred. I know he is off on a quest to learn more of what is going on. We are of blood, and we are different.
Not to get too personal, but if you succeed, which I hope you do, what does that mean for you, Andriousis? Are you asking to go back to the Great Hall to be with your god, or will you be looking for something here?
There, of course, would be no greater honor than to sit at Danu's table and share in the wine that flows so freely. And I do not know the answer to your question. So few of us get this chance at all to get a second look at how they lived and how they could live. Perhaps if we are successful, it would be time for me to go back to Alanis and unwrite some of the things that I have done.
Or as fate has brought you here, my friend, you could live out your days again in our realm, among friends, and Danu's table will always be waiting for you.
I am not sure that I am one to sit in comfort while there is suffering.
Well,
but
in this world or another, there will always be suffering to fight.
Indeed. Indeed.
The night leaves a bit of ominous as you guys have, again, more to reflect, more and more shedding into your personal time as sharing your stories with these wonderful family that seems to be strong, at peace, dutiful, and with a high degree of honor for what they represent and their standing in the city. You see what is really at stake, and you sleep as best you can. It does overtake you. As the morning arises, there is a knock on the door, and there seems to be a buzz going on, and each of your perceptions is high enough. But they're like, Jasleti, you must come. I'm not sure about the meeting, but High Priest Z, he's not well. She goes, well, let me get dressed. And you hear this commotion going on downstairs. What do you wish to do?
Get dressed and go downstairs to see what's going on, and if Zindred can be of any help.
Yeah, we'll follow.
Marissa will tell you that Joseli is getting prepared, armoring up. I guess there is issues with the High Priest Z, Renray of Apollo, that she's going to check. And you remember he was one that's going to take you to the Temple of Zeus.
Should we prepare ourselves for battle?
I do not know if you need battle, but I guess it would not hurt.
Well, Zindred does come down fully armored because this is the day she's hoping to gain an audience. So she is a paladin first before she is a lady of the Drow.
Okay.
May we accompany you?
Joseli goes, yes, of course. I think this may be connected, especially with events. Let us go. Takes you about...
Milady, then I will string my bow, milady.
Alright, it takes you about 7 minutes to get across to the High Temple. The guards and stuff will allow you to go in. Again, you see a lot of it. You are brought to the balcony. You see High Priest Zen. He is hands clasping the balcony rail. His head is lowered. Each of you give me an insight check.
25.
That's a 3.
Zindred.
Crap.
Andriousis, you're looking for the danger that could be around. You're not really looking so much at the High Priest. But Zindred, you, with him lowering down, you instantly see somebody who looks completely defeated. Commander Joseli is with you, and she goes, Zen? Or Z? Are you alright? We heard that you need us. He lets out a long breath. She came with a warning, Commander. As usual, we are slow to act, as we are in the city. You said they had faith, but there are actions going on elsewhere in Spero. My acolytes have confirmed the gods walk among us. They are in places throughout the realms. They are conflicting with each other. I will honor what you asked of me, Lady Zindred, and I do hope with all hope that you're able to accomplish this. But I am afraid I am the bearer and the sign of bad news. He lifts his head, turns from the railing, hands kind of out. And your insight of him, again, just shows you somebody who's just been so defeated, so humbled, so brought down. I am like the High Priest of Hermes. I can't feel him anymore, Lady Zindred. My connection has been severed to Apollo.
Zindred steps forward and wraps her arms around him.
He puts his head into your shoulder. Tears flow from him, and he weeps. Just weeps. We will call it here before we get into a second chapter. It's a good layout point. I need to get a little more things prepared. Just go into this.
the tough part, Ben, is knowing so much of what is about to happen.
Yeah. So moving this a bit, it gets a little bit more caught up. But yeah, you know the events, and those events will be found for those that are following in the War of the Garden, of course. We will at least try to. I think it will only really take us maybe another night to get Spero fulfilled. Cool. I feel. You guys will go with that. This may be a surprise video. This is more or less. I don't know if you catch us live by the notice. Thank you very much. Appreciate getting into it, but more likely you might just have to catch up to it as it gets posted to Spectre Studios, and we'll go from there because we are just trying to scramble a hard schedule between the three of us to make these events happen. So we do appreciate those that follow us, and you will have the second part, possibly the final part. I say this, but sometimes these goes a little longer, and and we're all praying that it does because these are two wonderful characters played by two wonderful players for me, and I love the fact that I've never really had many small games such as this, so it is great to see that type of RP as strong as you two have brought it. So thank you very much. You guys say your byes, and then I will.
Good night, everyone.
Let us.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching, and hopefully, you're rooting for Zindred, and peace. Peace.